What does it take to name a brand for a market you've never stepped into? This is How the World Names, conversations with members of We Are Naming, the global network of experts shaping the future of international brand development. In this series, we explore what's wonderful and weird about the languages, cultures, and countries we represent. Hello, and welcome to How the World Names. I'm Caitlin Barrett. I am the U.S. partner of We Are Naming, and today I am joined by Elles Poiesz. Oh my God, did I say your name right?
Yes, well, no, but I listen to everything. It's fine.
We're
so
gonna start
used.
over.
No, this is fun.
Say your last name for me again.
Poiesz.
Poiesz, that's right. We've gone through. Elles, you've taken me through this before. All right, we'll leave this in. It's a podcast about naming, and it's a podcast about getting names right. Elles is our partner from the Netherlands. Hello, Elles.
Hello, Caitlin.
Well, we're already on the topic of names, which is so important. You are a namer. You have been naming for a very long time. And let's hear a little bit about your background with naming, how you got here.
I fell in love with naming 25 years ago. 25 years ago. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
I didn't even know that naming was a profession back then. And yes, I studied business communication and I spoke quite a lot of languages and I loved writing very long Christmas poems, but I didn't know that these things could be the ingredient for naming until I walked into the Globrands office in Amsterdam. And when I saw hundreds of frames with names on it on the wall, I was sold actually. After a few years at Globrands, I joined Interbrand, first in Amsterdam and then in London, and that is also where you and I met. And I've been running my own studio for around 15 years now. And even after all these years, it amazes me how much impact a strong name can have on the world around it. One of the things that I love most about naming, there are a lot of things that I love about naming, but the one thing is working with people from around the world. Even if a project is only for the Netherlands, I always work with someone from another country, not because it's fun, because it is fun, but because they bring something else to the table. They offer a different perspective, they come from a different culture, they speak a different language. So when I met Sophie, our French partner, 5 or 6 years ago, and we won a pitch from 2 big agencies, it was actually only natural that we would make it official and create We Are Naming. And now we have 11 amazing namers around the world in our network. And to be honest, We Are Naming is one of the things that I am most proud of in my career, next to the amazing clients I've worked with, the names that we've created. This is actually something I'm really proud of.
I'm going to ask you a cultural question, probably.
Yes.
What is a Christmas poem?
Christmas poem? You don't do Christmas poems?
I have no idea what that is. I was raised Catholic too. I wonder if it's a European thing or a Netherlands thing.
I think maybe it might be. Might be in. No, it definitely is a. I think it's a European thing.
Okay.
Well, it's actually we also have this festive day at the beginning of December. So we do it with my family, but most families do Christmas poems and presents actually for the family. So then before somebody opens the present, they need to read a poem, and it's always about the funky things that person did, or just to make jokes about that person. And my family takes that very, very seriously.
That's so cute. I really like that. Thank you. All right. So you wrote a report about naming in the Netherlands, and we're going to talk about it today, and it will be linked in the show notes. And one of the first things you talk about is your capital city. I know it as Amsterdam. What do you call it?
Well, it depends on when and where you would ask me. So if you would ask me now in a conversation, hey, where are you or where are you from? I would say Amsterdam. But if you would ask me in a message where I am, I would probably write back Adam with an apostrophe after the A, or just Ams, like the letters on the screen at the airport, which you would still pronounce as Amsterdam, just to make it a bit more confusing, if you had to read that message out loud. And then local people in Amsterdam and the older generation, like my parents, they call Amsterdam Mokum, and that means city or safe haven in Yiddish. And I don't think a lot of people still know, what that name, where that name comes from, or what it really means. But it has become more of a nickname for Amsterdam now.
So Amsterdam, I mean, Netherlands, small, very small place. Um, but there's a lot going on there. Can you talk to us about what makes the Netherlands a very unique landscape for language and in particular naming?
Yes, I think the Netherlands is a special market because although we are a very small market, we are a very small country and small market, but we are a very connected country. We do a lot of business with the rest of the world, and in general, we have good relationships with other countries. And as a result, we speak multiple language. Also, we are a very diverse country. In Amsterdam alone, there are around 180 languages spoken. So, for naming, that means that a lot of the naming projects that we do are international. And there are often multiple languages and multiple cultures and trademark registers involved. And even if a project is mostly local, companies are mostly aware of the world around them.
And speaking of the languages, people, all the Dutch people I know also speak English. You speak Dutch and English, but you've also got a lot of German and French and Spanish speakers there. How does that like multilingualism impact how brand names are received? So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but a little bit more thinking about like if I'm naming a coffee shop in Amsterdam, what should I
Just to
be
name
thinking about?
something.
Just just to name something, sure, why not? Yeah, what are some of the considerations there? Like, how does that multilingualism impact that like receiving end of a brand name?
Yeah, so most of us learn different languages in school from an early age, and kids now even learn English when they are 4 or 5. And that means that brands from different countries and in different languages are mostly understood in the Netherlands and therefore quite easily accepted. That means that we've always got an array of languages that we can use in a naming project,
Mm,
which doesn't mean that every language fits every project, of course, because different languages communicate different things. So, for example, if we see a French name, that name communicates food or fashion or luxury to us. If a product carries a Scandinavian name, it sounds healthy and designy and sustainable. Dutch names sound more local and smaller, especially if you compare it to English names.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's come up so much across all of our discussions. A lot of these interviews is like, what does your language carry, and when do you need to borrow from another one? German maybe carrying a lot of precision and quality, but not so much high fashion or certain types of luxury, and wanting to borrow from Italian or French for
Yeah.
that power of language.
Yes.
You mentioned just there a little bit about, there's a tension between wanting to, appeal globally, but also, respect kind of like local connections. How do Dutch brands kind of walk that line of wanting to, meet the needs of global audiences, but also say, hey, we're Dutch, and we're proud of that. And how do people use language to walk that line?
Yeah, I think as the Dutch market is pretty international, most brand names, especially corporate brand names, are created based on the English language. It's the most common language also in communication with other countries. And most of us also in other countries have a basic understanding of English. And to be fair, for us namers, the English language sounds a lot more poetic and special than Dutch to play with. And then on the other side, you have more local and often smaller companies that focus more on the relationship with Dutch consumers and they choose a Dutch name. And this is how it mostly works. It's not a 100% rule, but this is how it in general works. But what we see more and more is that company mix different languages in a name, mostly English and Dutch, could also be other languages. So they mix the global appeal and the local authenticity. So some create a Dutch name with an English descriptor, or the other way
Mm.
around, and some even create a name with English and Dutch in one name. So, for example, there's this vegan skincare brand, which is called the Lekker Company, where lekker is Dutch and it means tasteful
Hmm.
or tasty or good or smooth or very. And I realized that there are a lot of meanings in Dutch for lekker. So that is a good example, actually, how you need to know the language. And the company in English are obviously English.
That's a good strategy, a simple strategy we haven't talked about much on this podcast of like, if your name is in one language, can you balance it out with a descriptor in another language, like finding that uh, yeah, that balance between the two, and sometimes playing with where does one sit, where does one drive clarity, where does one drive differentiation. So many tools in
Exactly.
the toolkit that can all be part of the naming conversation
Yeah, and
beyond
also
just the name.
yes, and also who are your audience, right? If there's a mix, if
Right.
there are a lot of expats in your city or in your country, you should consider doing something with that language.
Yeah. What do they speak?
Because Dutch
What
is
do they
not
want
an
to know?
easy
No,
language
it's
to
not.
learn, they
It
say.
doesn't look, I've never tried, so I can't actually say, but it does not look
No.
easy. And you're going to try and stump me with that at the end of this episode. Um, One of the other things you talk about is this shift from the rise of, some really simple, natural, descriptive names kind of during and shortly after COVID. And then this really big shift back towards more emotive, abstract ones. Talk to me about that shift and what you think drove that swing.
Yeah, I think that during COVID, that life felt, or actually was, pretty complicated. Our worlds became smaller, and we wanted and needed simpler to simplify our lives. So you saw that the focus shifted from a more global economy to a more local one, and also because of the restrictions we had, of course, because we couldn't do anything easily international. And then we started supporting the bakery and the butcher around the corner. And for us as namers, that translated into more descriptive and simpler and even more Dutch names for name creation. And when the world opened up again after COVID and people wanted a different type of name, a name that reflected those new dreams and ambitions and that we had. Companies started working more international again. And that's where we saw a rise in more symbolic and even abstract names again. So naming actually represented how we felt during and after COVID.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I always say that we're always kind of on the early that's a good trend word. I was going to say the tail, but that's the opposite, the nose
Yeah.
of these waves because we're kind of trying to get ahead of how people are going to feel about something. And as we know, sometimes we'll name something and it doesn't even come out for if we're lucky a couple months, sometimes it's a year or more. And it's so interesting to start to see early, okay, this is where we think these attitudes, these behaviors, these beliefs are going to go. And that's like such a great arc to map to that of like, yeah, we were ready to reconnect with the world. So we wanted these bigger, more abstract names. One
Yeah. And
day
then
we'll write the story of how the world can be understood through the lens of naming and
I
naming
know,
trends.
right? Yeah. You can, yeah, mostly see afterwards what happened. But yeah,
In the midst of it, sometimes we
naming
don't.
is, and naming is a good thermometer
It
for
is.
what happens in the market.
So you mentioned also that Dutch consumers love a good story, don't we all? Can you tell me a little bit about what makes a story really good behind a brand name for consumers, maybe for your clients, how those conversations go about how do you figure out what the story should be and how do you bring that to life?
Yeah, so you've known me for a couple of years, Caitlin, and you know that I'm pretty down to earth and direct. Um, and Dutch people are that in general. Let me not generalize because everybody's different, but in general, Dutch people are pretty straightforward.
Yes.
We just don't accept or believe just anything that someone says. So the same goes for a name or for a new brand that launches a new market. We want to know the story behind the name and not just a random story. but it has to be the true story. It has to be believable. It has to ring true to us. And even more so now, younger generations want to work for companies with a purpose. It's not just for money anymore. They want to work for companies that care, even if it's a side job. So for naming, we're always looking for that one hook, that one true hook, to tell the smallest story of the brand. And to get that hook, we explore the past and the future and the trends and the values and the market. We actually want to know everything, and we will filter what is important for us. We especially want to know what's so special about this product or company and why that is. And that's what we try to translate into a name.
So if I am a CEO, a CMO of a giant corporation, and we got our sights set on the Dutch market, what are some mistakes that I could make, or what's a big opportunity I might miss if I want to enter the Netherlands?
I think that many international companies from abroad underestimate the Netherlands because we are such a small country. They assume that we are the same as the countries around us. And yes, we are very connected to other countries and we have things in common, but we have our own culture, we have our own language. We actually have two official languages. And even though we're neighbors of Germany and of Belgium, and we even share a language with Belgium, we are still different. We're close by other countries in Europe, but we're not the same. And of course, we understand that if a huge company from the US or the Middle East or Asia comes to Europe, Netherlands is often part of a bigger picture, of a bigger project. But do your due diligence. That's a lot of these. Dive into the Dutch market, get to know us, do your trademark searches, do your linguistic and cultural checks before you enter the Dutch market. It might save you a lot of trouble.
It'll always save you a lot of trouble. Some people don't want to spend the week to, do a little extra, and
Yes,
what if it costs you the whole thing? Always worth it.
I know.
So I would love for you to talk a little bit about, your favorite Dutch name or names. Is there one Dutch name, or maybe you have a couple of favorites that really capture the Dutchness of naming? It could be something like iconic and national, or just something to you that's a favorite in the market.
Yeah, I love the name Swapfiets. And it's not the most sophisticated name there is, but I think it is a great example of the trend of mixing Dutch and English. Swap is obviously English, and fiets means bike. Of course, I
Okay.
come up with the Dutch bike brand. And this company rents out bikes with a subscription. They started in the Netherlands, I think 10 or 11 years ago. And they are now active in 8 countries with that name.
Hmm.
And I once spoke to someone in the Barcelona office, or I was renting that bike, and we spoke about the name Swapfiets. What else do you talk about with someone who works in a bike shop in Barcelona? And he said that when they were going abroad, that they considered choosing a different name, but in the end, um, they decided not to, and now they are active in all these countries with that name. Um, and I think it's a very bold and good decision because it makes them very different from what there already is in the market.
Will you spell it for me?
Swap, SWAP, Fiets, FIETS.
I see. Okay, yes. I'm just trying to picture if I would guess that was Dutch if I saw it. I might. I might. I would wonder, but I would want to know the story
Oh,
behind it.
would you?
Yeah.
Oh, you would not recognize Fiets
I
as
don't
Dutch.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Or would,
Maybe I
would
would
you
guess it
pronounce
was
it
German.
Fiat?
Uh well, now my brain is tainted by the
Yeah.
correct pronunciation, so who knows? But that's so cool. I like that you chose a name that like preserved its Dutchness as it entered the market. We see that like here in the U.S., like Faye yogurt. Keep having a very Greek name and teaching people how to pronounce it as a way of like exporting like a cultural product and a language project. I love that kind of stuff, and just being like confident in who you are, and teaching people a little
Yeah, I
bit
love
of
how
something.
proud they are of their
Yeah,
Dutch heritage, and then thought just go with it.
we'll just go with it. So I speak the fewest languages of anyone in We Are Naming, and I am asking everyone on this show to try and stump me with a sentence, phrase, lyric, whatever they would like from their native language. And Ellis, I will ask you now to share with me the line that you have provided, and I will try to guess what it means.
Okay, here it
What have you
comes.
got for me?
Sinds een dag of 2, vlinders in mijn hoofd.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to say it one more time very slowly.
Sinds een dag of 2, vlinders in mijn hoofd.
Okay, last part, no idea. We got flinders, cool word. All right, one more time, and then I'm going to give it a guess.
Sinds een dag of 2, vlinders in mijn hoofd.
Okay. I am purely going
You
on
want
the...
me to sing? Sing
Oh,
one
is it
for
a
you.
song? All right, all right. You know what? Sure,
Get
this won't give it
away.
away. All right, let's hear it.
I'm not a good singer though.
It's
but
okay. It'll be worse
Okay.
if I do it.
Yeah. Sinds een dag of 2, vlinders in mijn hoofd.
Okay, given that it's a song, it might be, it might be cute, it might be sweet. I was going to say something like since the dawn of time, just because that like fits the cadence of what you're saying. All right. Maybe I'm just going to go with my first guess, which is completely decoupled from any true logic. Since the dawn of time, there have been horses in the fields.
That's beautiful though. we
Is
should
it?
seriously, we should write new lyrics. Not that.
It's not that. Oh,
No.
too bad that I couldn't guess exactly what it'd be. Ellis, would you tell me what it actually means?
Yes. Since a day or 2, butterflies in my head.
Okay, conceptually, I was
Seriously.
kind of...
I know. It is close by.
Okay.
I can't believe you made me sing.
You know what? It was beautiful, Ellis. Thank you. Is that from a popular song?
Yeah, so this is the first sentence of the most popular songs of the pop group Doe Maar,
Okay.
which means just do it, come on. And their music was a mix of pop and skunk and reggae, and it was really, really popular in the 80s, and it still is. My teenage nieces still know it. And I remember the day they broke up, it was a day of national mourning. My sister did not go to school. It was all teenagers were out of office.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. Well, thank you for bringing a piece of Dutch cultural history to the show today.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the end here. Ellis, thank you so much. I've already forgotten how to pronounce your name once again, and this is not the first time we've been over this. So we'll have a session where I just repeat everyone in the whole network's last name. This has been the most stressful part of this entire podcast series. By the way, is saying the last names of people that I speak to almost weekly for like 5 years. I gotta get everyone's
no, but,
right.
But you only remember the last names of people in high school, right? You know, you can't even, you don't know what they do or where they are, but you still know their first name and their last name.
That's true.
And sometimes even their phone number. You haven't called them.
I almost rattled
years.
off my friend from first grade's phone number. I can still remember it right now, but I won't put it on the podcast because I don't want anyone to call her because her family still has the number. Ellis, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. How the World Names is produced by me, Caitlin Barrett. Music is by Alex Kulik. Subscribe to our newsletter at wearenaming.substack.com and submit a question for a future episode. If you'd like to partner with us on a global naming project, visit wearenaming.com to find out more.